Artificial intelligence is no longer the future of healthcare diagnostics. It is the present. In this Fearless Future podcast, brought to India by HT Labs, we explore how AI is transforming diagnosis, precision and patient outcomes through the voices of pioneers who are shaping the field. This is AI in healthcare diagnostics.
Obviously, people are very worried about, artificial intelligence and what will it do? Will it replace works? Will it replace a doctor? That is not the big question. The big question we need to ask ourselves is,
Demetris Skourides, Chief Scientist for the Republic of Cyprus, a thought leader who bridges technology and policy. With his deep expertise, he challenges us to rethink the big questions at the very core of how AI integrates into global healthcare systems.
A lot of it has changed since the time I started my practice in 1980.
Yes.
It's virtually, if you need a metaphor, it's from bullock cart to a fancy car. When it comes to oncology as such, a lot of AI is being implemented with the existing technology.
Dr. Nagraj Huilgol, Chief of Radiation Oncology at Nanavati Max Super Speciality Hospital in Mumbai, a respected clinician and academic, he brings the critical lens of real-world practice, highlighting both the promise and the limitations of existing technology in today's diagnostics landscape.
The goal at the time was to understand, can we use AI and data and machine learning algorithms to interpret disease early, to support physicians, and make more happen for the patients. And that was sort of the dream when we started.
Anumeha Srivastava, Chief Business Officer for Neurology at Qure.ai. With her strategic vision, she speaks to the mission and the dream that has driven AI adoption in diagnostics, turning what once seemed aspirational into practical, life-changing solutions.
I'm dreaming of a future where we have full AI support to help us with the less creative things and seize things what we are not capable of, but giving us more time to be there with our patients. And this is a very nice future.
Professor Constantinos Zamboglou, radiation oncologist at the German Oncology Center. With both scientific precision and humanistic hope, he shares his vision of a future where AI empowers healthcare professionals and creates better outcomes for patients worldwide.
This is a truly global conversation on how AI can transform healthcare with perspectives from government, clinical practice, and product innovation.
Pavan R. Chawla, founder, editor of Mediabrief.com and host of its flagship podcast. He steers a global dialogue on artificial intelligence, healthcare and innovation, unfolding insights and the future of diagnostics.
Hello and welcome. I'm Pavan R. Chawla, founder, editor of Mediabrief.com and host of its flagship podcast too. And today I have the pleasure of having been invited by HT Labs to conduct this fantastic podcast. I'm sure it's going to be a very good episode because I have with me 4 distinguished experts. With me are Mr. Demetris Skourides, Chief Scientist of the Republic of Cyprus, Dr. Nagraj Huilgol sitting next to me, Chief of Radiation Oncology at Nanavati Max Super Speciality Hospital, Ms. Anumeha Srivastava sitting across, Chief Business Officer Neurology, Qure.ai, that's Qure, and does great work. And Professor Constantinos Zamboglou, he's a radiation oncologist, German Oncology Center, and it's going to be amazing. Gentlemen and Ms. Srivastava, I should have said it the other way around, in the other order. Welcome to this conversation.
Thank you.
thank you.
Now, we've gathered to discuss AI in healthcare diagnosis, building India-Cyprus collaboration for innovation. This is a truly global conversation on how AI can transform healthcare with perspectives from government, clinical practice, and product innovation. But before we begin, I will take the pleasure of introducing all of you distinguished guests of ours. And I shall begin with you, sir, Mr. Demetris Skourides. He is the Chief Scientist of Research, Innovation and Technology, Republic of Cyprus. He advises the President on digital transformation, chairs the Research Innovation Foundation, and represents Cyprus at European level on the Board of Governors of JRC, European Scientific Advisor Forum. He's a pioneer of cloud transformation and he has mentored more than 100 startups and has delivered more than 300 keynotes and earned more than 90 global accolades. Mr. Skourides, welcome once again.
Thank you.
Next, sitting right next to me is the eminent Dr. Nagraj Huilgol, Chief of Radiation Oncology at Nanavati Max Super Speciality Hospital. And with more than 4 decades in oncology, Dr. Nagraj brings unmatched experience on how cancer care in India is evolving with new technologies. That's really significant. Dr. Huilgol, Dr. Nagraj, welcome. Then we have Ms. Anumeha Srivastava. She's the Chief Business Officer for Neurology at Qure.ai, a pioneering health tech company applying AI to medical imaging at scale and known for partnerships with governments and global agencies. Ms. Anumeha, welcome.
Thank you.
And finally, last but not the least, certainly, is Professor Constantinos Zamboglou, radiation oncologist at the German Oncology Center, and he brings valuable European clinical experience and a perspective on India-Europe collaborations in oncology and AI. Professor Zamboglou, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Skourides, you are here on a very important mission for the Indo-Cyprus Summit on Cooperation, right? And you've been empowering such, I think, inter-country collaborations with your wonderful and very forward-looking government of the nation of Cyprus. So thank you for what you do. So where do you see, Mr. Skourides, the most exciting opportunities for collaboration between India and Cyprus in AI-driven healthcare? That's key. Tell us.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here with, I think, all of these panelists and co-hosts here. So let me start, first of all, about, why AI, healthcare, and diagnostics as a first step. Obviously, people are very worried about, artificial intelligence and what will it do? Will it replace works? Will it replace a doctor? That is not the big question. The big question we need to ask ourselves is, first of all, how can technology help humans, right, to really create that advantage and really contribute more to saving lives? And that is a foremost mission that I have, being actually a person and a patient who actually had benefited, from, I think, this technology. Now, for me, AI in diagnostics is a first step. It's a step that basically will enable us to really be able to really diagnose, I think, diseases much faster, to really diagnose emerging cases that are really coming up a lot earlier on. And that basically has 3 benefits. First of all, it has an opportunity for the citizen, better, right, predictive care. It has an opportunity to also help the healthcare system to actually reduce the stress. And by reducing the stress on a healthcare system, we actually essentially, right, provide better citizen experience, right, better healthcare. And that creates, I think, what we all want to have, a better society. So the opportunities are there. And from a government perspective, we technocrats, also policymakers, needs to understand, right, the challenge and the opportunity and find ways where we can really embrace the two and really create this inflection point so that instead of us creating and slowing down something that can help, perhaps increase longevity, right, perhaps, help so many lives, to really empower it without really, ignoring risks. So there is a lot of opportunity, and I think that this emerging, let's say, partnership that started off with Prime Minister Modi's visit to Cyprus and being hosted by His Excellency the President, I think the two excellencies have a great vision of how we can really unlock value across digital, across infrastructure, across physical and economy. And I think healthcare is, as we said, not only the most important, it's the heart, the mind, the soul that basically empowers all of us to move forward.
Wonderful. We all wish you well in this. It's going to really benefit both our countries immensely. People desperately need healthcare. So, Mr. Skourides, as chief scientist, you're closely involved with national strategy, right? And I want to ask you, what role should governments play in creating the right ecosystem for AI in healthcare? And how far should regulation go without stifling innovation?
Thank you very much. So first of all, let me say that in Cyprus, the Council of Ministers in January established an AI task force that I proudly chair. And the AI task force was designed in a way that it takes into consideration the needs of the public sector and also the private sector, right? So it brings in, leading expertise from researchers, from scientists, from foresight experts, etc., to be able to really create a strategy that basically will help the country evolve across unanimously. Now, the importance is at the European level, we basically have something called the EU AI Act, which basically provides guidance as a framework as to how Europe will adopt artificial intelligence, how each member state will comply to that, and where we have goes or no-goes, and how do we actually enforce the governance. Now, the most important part that for us, what we are doing to really enable this is we're really not approaching as, AI is a no-go area, but we're really understanding that AI is an area, healthcare is an area where AI can unlock trapped value. And how do we actually take into consideration the necessary criteria or obligations that will help us do that? And as part of that, we have these discussions in ways where we're basically looking at where do we create the value.
So, Mr. Skourides, as chief scientist, you're closely involved with national strategy. What role do you think governments should play? Do you recommend governments should play in creating the right ecosystem for AI in healthcare? And how far should regulation go without stifling innovation?
Thank you very much. So I think, first of all, I'll acknowledge the importance of an ecosystem, right? For us to really make meaningful progress, we need to have an ecosystem, and that innovation ecosystem needs to actually have the right fundamental, let's say, platform, infrastructure, and policies that enable it to happen. In Cyprus, the Council of Ministers since January 25 has established a national AI task force, which brings together expertise from both private, public spectrums to be able to really look at how do we adopt AI in what areas, and how do we use it as a value of creating a value for us and an opportunity. Now, the important part is that on one side, we do have the mandate to actually adopt the EU AI Act, which is a framework designed to govern how AI is adopted in the use cases. But at the national level, we are also looking at how do we create those policies that will enable this to happen. And I think for the healthcare space, we all acknowledge that AI is a tremendous value generator because it can really create a lot of value. But to minimize the risk, right, without really creating that friction between innovation and, let's say, regulation, we are looking at using, for example, standards like ISO 42001, which is a risk management standard on AI, and the other standards that we have that will really govern and bring AI governance in. AI framework and the EU AI Act does not say do not use AI. It says make sure that you're using artificial intelligence responsibly, ethically, right, transparently, in a way that you basically respect human values. So by introducing leading standards and let's say technologies that are helping us, we can really leverage innovation without really moving it forward. And we as government look at the role of policy as an enabler, not a detailer.
Wonderful. I must confess that I should have specified this earlier when we began the episode, that I'm going to go in a linear way this time, because obviously the big picture and the wonderful thing that India and Cyprus want to do together is obviously going to come from and is coming from Mr. Skourides. And since I have three eminent experts, specialists in their particular spaces, I will go from across them also one by one, so that everyone can bring a focused and sort of not filtered, of course, but a focused presentation of their area and AI in healthcare. So for now, my last question to you, sir, and of course you can come in and advise and comment on everything that everybody else says, and as everybody else can. But my question to you right now is that if Indo-Cyprus cooperation works the way you envision, and it's a wonderful vision because we've been speaking even offline and it's fantastic, what tangible outcomes, Mr. Skourides, do you expect in the next 5 years? joint research, pilot projects, or shared clinical data framework?
Thank you very much. So I think the first thing that we all need to embrace is that technology can help us really solve some of the most challenging areas that we are really faced with. And I think in healthcare, it all goes down back to something that is very, very important. It's data. India, given the size of the country, the actual effort that you're doing with leading hospitals and research, you have actually experienced and looked at, I think different types of cases of diseases in a very advanced form. Now, what I would expect looking forward in 5 years' time is that the combination where Indian scientists, doctors, researchers, working closely with doctors, researchers from Cyprus as a gateway into Europe, together we leverage this infrastructure that we build based on the partnership to tackle faster and look at insight that can help us, for example, reduce the impact, for example, of Alzheimer's on patients, right? Or other degenerative diseases, or to be able to look at, various forms of cancer and how do we diagnose them earlier on. I'm pleased to be here with, I think, other leading specialists on both sides, Dr. Nagraj and also Dr. Zamboglou on the oncology side, where I think we're seeing a very big opportunity for AI to help in the diagnostic area. I know we also have Qure.ai with us, which is doing a lot of pioneering help. But I'm saying that we should be looking at what are the 3 or 4 projects on the research side, on the innovation side, on the technology side that can help us, tackle 1, 2, 3, I'd say, problems we have. And I think technology is an enabler. I think we should always approach it with humans at the center. And within 5 years' time, I think I'm very comfortable that with the good work between, I think, the scientists and the researchers, we will have, I think, good examples of better diagnostic capability to prevent cancer. Better, for example, capability to diagnose earlier disorders, and how we can then shift slowly to understand how we can personalize treatment. But we are at the beginning, and I think this partnership creates the opportunities for us to really start building the blocks. As I say, you can't use AI, right, in healthcare if you don't have access to data. But you don't only need the data. You also need, that experiential learning, that experience that doctors have, right? So that eventually you build on top of all of this the next generation of systems that will help us and help doctors have better insight.
Wonderful. So well put, sir. Thank you very much indeed. So now, to my immediate right, next to me, is another wonderful healthcare expert, Dr. Huilgol. So we're talking about, let's examine clinical practice with you, sir. So Dr. Nagraj, with over 4 decades in oncology, okay, you've witnessed firsthand how cancer care has transformed, So how do you see technologies like AI shaping the way, oncology is practiced in India today compared to when you began?
Yeah, a lot of it has changed since the time I started my practice in 1980.
Yes.
It's virtually, if you need a metaphor, it's from bullock cart to a fancy car. When it comes to oncology as such, a lot of AI is being implemented with the existing technology. For instance, we also have a colleague who is a radiation oncologist. Say, for instance, contouring and plan optimizations are nearly 50-60% of radiotherapy today. Planning to execution relies on artificial intelligence. And there are commercial packages available, applications available, systems available. And it's very useful. It has transformed the way we practice radiotherapy as such. And it has a much bigger impact even on diagnostics, even on preventive. There are a lot that can be done. I think we are not really utilized AI the way it should be, either at a local level or at a national level. I'm sure there can be a lot that we can do with Cyprus or many other countries besides India itself.
Wonderful.
And I'm not too worried about abuse of AI, because at this point of time, I think we should be careful. There is no doubt about that. We should give unbridled encouragement to people who are researching in AI. There is a lot that we can do, especially people don't realize that country like ours, where there's huge disparity. In Mumbai, you have just about everything. Go 200 kilometers down the line, there's no human resources. Now, and AI can step in there. And there are plenty of areas. Say, for instance, mammography today is validated. And auto-contouring is validated. And accuracy at sometimes, or dermatology, accuracy sometimes far exceeds human expertise. So if we don't use that, and if you don't enable less fortunate people a little further away from the metro with the AI, then I think we're doing a great disservice.
Absolutely, sir. Yes. And from your perspective, what are the biggest benefits AI can bring to oncology, for doctors, hospitals, and patients? And at the same time, what are some pitfalls or risks that we need to be mindful of?
Yeah, as I just now told you, and a lot of it, especially right now, I think imaging. I think we have a colleague who is into the imaging. Imaging is a big-time application in oncology at large. We cannot replace the surgeons. Okay, so what Watson tried to do, and of course they failed, but the objectives are not just lofty but doable. With years to come, I think what Watson tried to do, we should do it here, wherein it helps you in diagnostics, or planning your therapeutics, except for surgery. I think a lot of others can be done with eventual modified Watson, if you wish. And that will make a huge difference, especially when the expertise is not uniform. And we have center of excellence in India, like maybe Mumbai, maybe Delhi, but it's not so everywhere. And
Good.
So, I think AI, application of AI, implementation of AI will make the top class expertise available uniformly across the country.
Wonderful. Excellent. And Dr. Nagraj, healthcare and research are becoming increasingly global, right? And what kind of collaborations do you believe are most critical for India to leverage AI in healthcare effectively? And Mr. Skourides has been talking about collaborations, but answer this.
Yes, I think both of us have the same problems of human resources, I'm sure, and a lack of uniformity. And that's one area wherein when I was listening to him closely, I think that's one area wherein we can really collaborate. And we have a huge data, and on which people get trained, and some of it can be universal, some of it can be specific to a certain kind of a culture and race and etc. But having said that, say for instance, very simple, as I said, an early diagnosis. He spoke about the early diagnosis of breast. Now, mammography is a validated application, and it's much better than radiologists diagnosing it. So we can collaborate there, and we have a huge population, and we can. And I'm just giving an example.
And breast cancer is such a
cancer
widespread
research, dermatology. Like say, for instance, Cyprus would be probably melanoma would one of the major problems. So that's again, AI comes in there.
Absolutely.
And as of today, radiation oncologists, we have a colleague who can say more about it.
Sure.
A lot of AI, right from planning to contouring, etc., is being utilized. And I think there was one editorial in Green Journal. He understands what Green Journal is, and he asked a very rhetorical question: should we really allow humans to contour when you have such an excellent or something AI better, which does better than a human? That's a different kind of an ethical question.
Absolutely.
If I may just add one or 2 points, just I think for us to build on. So Dr. Nagraj actually pointed out saying that when you have data, you can actually build much more intelligence when you look at the models. So we know very well that we have companies out there, the likes of the Googles or the Microsoft, who have medical type of technologies that can diagnose at 98%, right? But what we are missing, right, is the behavior and understanding of how do diseases spread, right? So I think the combination of bringing together the vast amount of data that can come right from Europe, right from countries like Cyprus and India working together, enables us to start understanding or leverage the power of artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural language computing to be able to understand, right, how does cancer spread, right? How does it start in one place? What are the pathways that take it there? And this helps us slowly understand, right, how do we actually take more preventive care, right? Or I think better treatment in the first place. Again, being able to understand, leveraging technology that can see the correlation, right, across vast amount of data is going to be, I think, a transformation enabler for us to create that value.
Excellent. Well said, sir. Which now brings me to the opportunity to discuss and hear from someone who has been in product innovation and policy. I am going to now address my next set of questions to Ms. Anumeha Srivastava, Chief Business Officer, Neurology at Qure.ai. Sure. So, Anumeha, Qure.ai has become known for using AI to interpret medical imaging at scale. Can you walk us through how your solutions are actually being used in hospitals and diagnostic centers across India today? And what kind of impact are you seeing on patient outcomes?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. So if I were to start with a little bit about Qure's journey, Qure.ai is now around a decade in the works. We started with solving the problem of using neural networks and computer vision algorithms to interpret signs of diseases on chest x-rays, on brain CTs. And the goal at the time was to understand, can we use AI and data and machine learning algorithms to interpret disease early, to support physicians and make more happen for the patients. And that was sort of the dream when we started. But from there, once we went to start speaking to our customers, which were both hospitals and governments, we realized that we could bring in the most value there where there was no physician at all.
Oh, okay.
For example, some of our early work did not actually start within the provider or the hospital network. It happened in remote villages in Philippines, where community screening of tuberculosis used to happen on a mobile van, where they'd load an X-ray machine on a van, send it out to the communities to screen patients along the way. But there was no radiologist or a doctor in the van. So all of these X-rays would be collected over 7 days and the van would come back to the center. That's where the chest X-ray interpretation would happen. And now this van would go out again looking for those same patients over 14 days and say these were the patients who were identified with early signs of tuberculosis, and then try to do the follow-up testing. And as you would imagine, a lot of patients would get lost to follow-up in this process. So we started from solving those problems in the community. And over time, we built our algorithms to not just do diagnostics, but also patient management. And that's how it is currently being utilized in most of the hospitals around the world. Wow. We pick up early signs of lung cancer, and we support hospitals in tracking these patients both through diagnosis and then further management. This not only allows for patients to be detected early, but also their management to happen in time. And both these delays, as you can imagine, significantly impacts the quality of life and patient outcomes for patients of oncology, specifically lung cancer.
Lovely, lovely. That's great. And Anumeha, India faces chronic shortages of radiologists, and it has unequal access to diagnostic facilities between urban and rural areas. And you just spoke about what was happening in the remote areas of the Philippines. How is Qure.ai addressing these gaps in India? And what lessons have you learned about deploying AI in resource-constrained settings and areas?
So Qure had the fortune to work with 4,500 sites globally across 100 countries.
Across?
100 countries.
100 countries, yes.
Yes. But our heart, as you'd imagine, is in the country where we started, which is India. Some of the projects that we are the most proud of within India, very recently we had a landmark decision, and I'll talk to you about that. Across the state of Goa, which is close to Maharashtra, the entire state does statewide lung cancer screening using chest X-ray AI tools. So all across their 18 centers, over the last 1.5 years, they have screened 70,000 patients for signs of nodules that could potentially be cancerous. And our AI solution not only identifies this nodule, but also risk stratifies it. As you'd imagine, not every nodule would be cancerous. and then supports the health system to do follow-up management of these patients. In a recent landmark judgment, even reimbursement was approved by the government at the back of this project, which allows for not just diagnosis but also treatment of patients. So that partnership has really impacted the way cancer care and other innovation therapies are delivered in the state of Goa. Similarly, in the state of Punjab, we work with a unique model of public-private partnership where we connect district hospitals that are on the government side with super specialist private hospital centers to allow patients with stroke be transferred very quickly from these villages into the surgery room and give them a potential high quality outcome by giving them the opportunity of having thrombolysis and thrombectomies for stroke patients. So from what a patient would a patient earlier who would come to a district hospital would possibly go back with significant disabilities, today is walking back and returning to their occupation because of such projects and collaborations, which only technology can and AI can do.
Excellent. You know, Anumeha, one of the biggest debates around AI in healthcare is around trust, right? Doctors worry about explainability, patients worry about privacy. So how does Qure.ai build trust with clinicians and regulators, and where do you think India stands on creating a regulatory framework for AI in medicine?
So there are a lot of questions in that question. I'll start with how our approach has been to achieve this global scale.
Sure.
I think there are 3 pillars for a company like us to scale meaningfully. There is the research pillar, the innovation pillar, and the implementation pillar. Research does not mean that you can do it one time and then work at the back of it, because for something like healthcare, the guidelines evolve, the learnings evolve, and therefore the research should evolve. So a significant proportion of our time and investment continues to go into new research. And we've done large randomized control trials in different countries like the UK. We are doing studies in the US. So even to serve the Indian population, we have continually done research all over the world and made it locally validated. Second, innovation. So innovation is not one way. We cannot build a tool and then go out in the market and sell it, because this is healthcare. It has to be a two-way learning. For us to innovate, then do the research and then get those learnings from the healthcare users and professionals who are the experts at this care. Take their feedback and then come back and further make the product conducive to be used in that healthcare system is something that we have committed deeply to. And then the third is, of course, implementation. We were just talking how understanding the local patient pathways is a very important part of making meaningful implementation happen. Because what may work in the NHS will not work in AIMS in India and may not work in the Mount Sinai's of the world. Each of them have completely different patient pathways, and we need to be mindful of that to ensure that both patient data privacy is maintained and the usability and explainability for the users in these different health systems is achieved.
So, would you like to weigh in, Mrs. Skourides, on, where you think India stands on creating a regulatory framework for AI in medicine?
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm informed enough to be able to say where you stand on creating a regulatory framework. I can definitely see that there is a lot of leading research that is happening here, and the discussions, the necessary discussions at the policy level to enforce it. What I can say that is important, building on what Anumeha has actually just touched upon, is that, first of all, we need to understand how to actually use the data. Right, and that the data is, you cannot just take something that comes in from abroad and just adopt it. You need to have the necessary, let's say, infrastructure and, let's say, structures to be able to contextualize it. And that is always in line with the policy that a government, right, or a country creates. Then the other item that is important is that this element of trust and the facility also needs to be facilitated through the policy that dictates how data is used, right? How data moves out of a system. And here is where, again, we have innovation meeting research. We always talk about, machine learning and how, machines will learn from data. But we also have another concept in research that we talk machine learning, right? How do we really go ahead and really unteach a model that has been trained on wrong data so that we need to get there? And I think from a regulation perspective, from a policy perspective, we need to build these into our structures so that we can really make sure that we are humans in the middle. We know how to bring back, the data where we see that something has gone wrong from data that has been, I would call, trained, that is maybe on synthetic data. But the most important part is to really look at policy as an enabler. And once we look at partnerships across, continents like India and Europe, right, we have to create the synergy so that the two continents are compatible in the way that we can move forward. So we in Europe advocate for open science and open data, right? We do have specific, let's say, frameworks like the healthcare data spaces, which is going to be part of the building blocks that we will start discussing once we move forward with, I think, those MOUs that are there.
Excellent.
I think there's a question of liability also.
Sure.
And at this point of time, human supervision is mandatory. I mean, you cannot just overlook that.
And as Anumeha said, research has to be always ongoing. And as you said, the validation also has to be always ongoing so that, you don't need to actually go and machine unlearn machines. But yes, it's very important to stay completely on the tracks of accurate data and accurate and correct interpretations, and therefore research that will help you go further. Fantastic. Okay, next segment for us is European learnings with Professor Constantinos Zamboglou, right? As a practicing oncologist, Constantinos, where have you seen AI make the most meaningful difference in cancer diagnosis, treatment planning, or patient monitoring?
To be honest, I would like to answer this question a little more general. There
Please.
are two buzzwords. First is patient-centered care. And patient-centered care means that the doctor has time for his patient to do the relevant things for his patient. And nowadays, the doctors around the globe, in Europe, but also in India, we are struggling with a lot of bureaucracy, administrative burden, and with a lot of donkey work. And I think there is the first thing AI can help us to help us with this administrative burden and this donkey work. At the end of the day, I work 12 to 14 hours, and of these, half of the day, it's just stuff which is not patient-centered. So AI should help us with things which are easy to do. And the second pillar is personalized care and personalized oncology, where I should help us with things we cannot do. There's one very nice example. We do, for example, a study in our oncology center. We became fully digitalized the last year to do these kind of studies. Prostate cancer is a high number of patients, the most common cancer in males in the Western world. And when they get radiotherapy, based on the old characteristics, they need to get 3 years hormonal treatment, 3 years chemical castration. This is not nice for our patients. What we did in the study, we're working together with a company in the US, and they have an AI tool where we put another layer. So when we see that the patient, based on classical risk parameters, is high risk, but on AI, low risk, we reduce the treatment from 3 years to 1 year, which I'm sure makes a huge impact of the quality of life to our patients.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I understand that radiation oncology is both highly technical and obviously deeply human, right? So, how do you balance AI-driven precision with the empathy and intuition patients need from their doctors?
This is an excellent question. So the first thing is doctors just need to have time for the patients. So this is what I said. AI should help us to cover the donkey work, to cover the administrative burden. So the doctor is there actually for the patient and
More
not
time for the
struggling
patient,
with
yes.
writing reports and stuff. So I think this is the most important part. And of course, it could help us with personalizing care. One other pillar I would like to emphasize, we talk about tangible outcomes between India and Cyprus, a collaboration. This is actually happening. Our center is collaborating with the Tata Memorial Cancer Center here in Mumbai. And these two centers are leading a global effort, including Harvard Medical School, Los Angeles, Melbourne, around the world. We are collecting now data on prostate cancer, imaging data and clinical data. Over 10,000 patients, spearheaded by Tata Memorial and the German Oncology Center. And our aim is that we want to become a non-invasive diagnostic tool so that our patients don't need a biopsy in the future, that we just have the imaging, the clinical data, and we can avoid invasive procedures. This would be very cool and again, very patient-friendly.
Wonderful. Okay, short answer to the next one. Very interesting ones, of course. Your answers and everybody else's. But looking 10 years on ahead, that is, how do you think AI will reshape oncology, and from early detection to personalized therapies? And what excites you the most about that future? Because you've done so much of research, you've seen correlated, and you're in the middle of this collaboration with so many institutes, including Tata Memorial in India and the global ones out there. So just tell me, what excites you the most about the future?
So most excitement about the future is exactly this, that we will become more patient-centered and more personalized. So we will have tools in our hands which guide us. They won't replace us. I'm sure this is a statement. They won't replace a specialized oncologist or radiation oncologist, but they will help us. Why we should reinvent the wheel? The airplane industry did it very nicely. The pilots are still in the airplane, but the autopilot is flying. And I'm dreaming of a future where we have full AI support to help us with the less creative things and seize things what we are not capable of, but giving us more time to be there with our patients. And this is a very nice future.
Wonderful. So we've heard perspectives from policy, practice, and innovation, right? And looking ahead 10 years, what will success in AI-driven healthcare diagnosis look like is what I would like to ask you, Mr. Skourides.
So let me start by saying that I think we all want to have healthcare as a top priority. And I think artificial intelligence is an enabling technology that allows us to democratize, right, access to information, access to insight, access, to tools that will help us, right, act now. I think that looking 10 years ahead, I would like to hope that we have the policies, the regulations in place to enable innovative companies, right, that can really arm, doctors with the capability to, be able to act much faster. I would like to hope that in 10 years' time, right, a smartwatch will be able to alert us, hey, you need to actually go right now to the hospital because we're actually feeling that, you're not, doing too well and you need to be looked at a specialized doctor. I would like to hope that, by then, we will be able to arm, let's say, and provide, I think, providers, like event managers and all of these with tools and applications that can really be able to diagnose, right, emergencies and say, this emergency needs, immediate attention right now, right? And this emergency can wait, for example, for an hour. And that really can help us provide quality healthcare, timely, not to just, I think, people who are, of a specific, let's say, a beneficiary of one insurance policy or another, but to out there to the masses. And I think that technology is the fundamental enabler. And I think it's now our job to unite industry, bring industry closer to innovators, closer to, I think, the policy regulators, so that these discussions happen. And I'm happy that, at the European level, we're having it. We have a tremendous focus, through the DG of Health that is really looking at this in a very, very structured way.
And what about you, Dr. Nagraj? Would you like to, share a key takeaway?
Yeah, it's very difficult to predict, but I do share his optimism, but not as much. The most of the AI in oncology would be in drug discovery. And probably, as I said, about Watson, and maybe we'll get a better Watson in the next 10 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. What about you, Professor Constantinos?
So, as I said, I'm very excited about the future, but we have to pave this way very carefully.
Wonderful.
And as we said, I think validation is a key point. We are working very hard on our hospital to have protocols there to validate the new tools, to see if they are working with our data. And we are very happy to collaborate with the innovative ecosystem of India to push this way forward.
Wonderful. What about you, Anumeha?
I believe the possibilities with AI are endless. what we can do for our patients, we've just about begun. And we need the right decision makers, policy stakeholders, and healthcare providers in the right rooms to make what is proven real for the patients.
Great work, really. And I must say that this has been a deeply enriching discussion. Thank you, Mr. Demetris Skourides, Dr. Nagraj, Mr. Constantinos, and of course, Ms. Anumeha. You've been fantastic. You shared your expertise and perspectives with such clarity and depth, and I found our chat extremely inspiring, informative, and thought-provoking. I hope you enjoyed the conversation too. So with that, let me sign off. Let me just say thank you to all of you for those thoughts. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. I'm Pavan R, Chawla, founder, editor of Mediabrief.com and host of his flagship podcast. I look forward to bringing you, hopefully, several other discussions like this, but very, very grateful to HT Media, which has HT Labs, which has actually brought this fantastic panel together and invited me to bring their views to you. So thank you very much indeed. And till we meet again, stay healthy, stay informed, stay inspired, stay safe.
This was AI in Healthcare Diagnostics, a global dialogue on how artificial intelligence is reshaping medicine and saving lives. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more conversations that matter.